Hey everyone, welcome to the show. So, this is pretty embarrassing for Dinesh D'Souza. The group that Dinesh D'Souza repeatedly cited in his laughable quote unquote documentary, the 2000 Mules hilarious movie, fairy tale, they admitted in court that they have no actual evidence of voter fraud in Georgia. As I'm sure you all know, D'Souza is a Trump minion. He's also a convicted felon. And he produced this film, 2000 Mules. He turned mundane acts like people going back and forth to work and to drop off their kids, basically, into some grand conspiracy. So one perfect example of how this was just like such a joke of a quote unquote documentary is D'Souza's accusation that a man named Mark Andrews was one of these so-called election mules. In 2000 Mules, D'Souza showed a video of Andrews, and he's placing multiple envelopes in a ballot drop box. D'Souza, in the documentary, claims, oh, this guy is doing something illegal. This is what's known as ballot harvesting. See how he's dropping off multiple ballots? So ballot harvesting is when you gather other people's ballots, you take them to a drop box. Ballot harvesters, true ballot harvesters, sometimes fill out the ballots themselves. They fill out other people's ballots. They can be stolen. They can be from elderly people who don't even realize that their ballot was taken. As it turns out, though, Andrews is married and he has 2 adult children who live with him. So he was saving everyone a trip to the drop box by mailing their ballots for them. That practice is perfectly legal. If someone lives in your home, you are allowed to drop off their ballot for them. So the Georgia Bureau of Investigation even looked into this. They looked into these allegations against Andrews. They said, guy did nothing wrong. No law was broken here. The Georgia State Election Board also investigated and dismissed multiple other cases who involved people who were accused of the same thing. They were also found to be dropping off ballots for their family members who live with them. So Andrews is even in the process of suing D'Souza right now for defamation because he received all kinds of hate, all kinds of threats because of this false portrayal of him in this documentary. And again, quote unquote documentary. So I am really looking forward to the discovery phase of that trial because D'Souza is going to have to try to come up with evidence to try to prove all of his fairy tales. In the meantime, though, we now have more proof that 2000 Mules was a complete work of fiction. D'Souza relied, as I said in the beginning, he relied heavily on so-called voter fraud information that was gathered by a right-wing group called True the Vote. That group was repeatedly cited in the film. The founder of True the Vote even appeared in this quote-unquote documentary, along with an investigator who made a bunch of bogus election fraud claims. That investigator is a man named Greg Phillips. He recently admitted to the Washington Post that a map that they showed, that they used in that film, was fake. Donald Trump even name-checked True the Vote when he was asked about the 2020 election. I mean, you talk to any right-winger, any MAGA person, and they're going to say, oh, we know there was election fraud. Go watch 2000 Mules. Donald Trump once said, quote, if you look at True the Vote, they found millions of votes on camera, on government cameras where they were stuffing ballot boxes. The problem is, True the Vote has been in court over the past couple weeks. This is for a related matter, and they have been forced to admit they do not have evidence to back up their election fraud stories. For example, following the 2020 election, True the Vote told the Georgia Bureau of Investigations they were in contact with a whistleblower. They said a whistleblower reached out to them. This person was involved in a massive election fraud scheme. This purported whistleblower allegedly told True the Vote that hundreds of people had been hired and that they were depositing numerous fraudulent ballots in various drop boxes throughout Georgia, and that they were being paid $10 for every delivered ballot. So True the Vote says, you need to go look into this. And the Georgia Bureau of Investigation said, okay, you need to give us some evidence. We need the contact information for your source. Couldn't give it to him. True the Vote was like, yeah, we can't give you that. So then there were other suspicious details that emerged. And so the Georgia FBI branch said, we can't do anything. We're closing this case because there's just nothing to go on here. So in court over the last week, True the Vote's attorney had to concede that, yeah, we don't actually know the identity of this so-called source who says, I was part of this huge scheme, this source who supposedly communicated with them. They also admitted they have no documentation to back up their voter fraud allegations, including confidentiality agreements that they claimed existed. So in response to a subpoena, because this is what this was all about, this is why they've been in court, the state had subpoenaed this information that they said they had, all this evidence they said they had. So in response to the subpoena for evidence, True the Vote's attorney wrote, quote, TTV has no such documents in its possession, custody, or control. This is exactly what happened in Arizona. True the Vote also made wild allegations of voter fraud and ballot stuffing in Arizona. So in 2022, the Arizona Attorney General asked True the Vote, give us evidence, provide evidence to back up these claims. We will investigate. We'll get to the bottom of it. They never did. They never could. So since then, the Arizona Attorney General reached out to the FBI and the IRS and said, you need to investigate this group because True the Vote has been raking in the cash. They have raised a ton of money off of these election fraud fairy tales. So I will let you know when I hear more. Thank you all so much for watching and listening. Please like this video. Please share it with others so it gets out there and everybody knows about this. Please become a subscriber if you have not. If you can donate, I really appreciate it. Love you all. Take care. Talk with you soon.